Joe Biden is among 6 candidates facing off tonight in Iowa. The former vice president has a slight lead in recent polls. Still, the 78-year-old appears to lack public enthusiasm. In a recent profile of the candidate, reporter Walter Shapiro says you never have to worry about finding a parking spot at a Joe Biden event. Walter has been reporting on Biden for decades. He joins me now from Des Moines. Walter, in your profile, you compare Joe Biden to former President Gerald Ford, who replaced President Nixon when he was impeached. You mentioned Biden's promise to put the country back together. So how does he hope to heal the nation?
Well, I mean, the whole point about, well, Biden does not explicitly make the Gerald Ford analogy. That's mine and mine alone, even though people close to Biden, as I indicated in my piece in the New Republic, did acknowledge that it was not an unfair comparison. But the point is that Biden is really running as a candidate, not of vast dreams to remake American society, but a candidate who would steer America quite happily through 4 placid years. I mean, the whole argument is, which I make in the piece, is does America want to go from a president who has totally torn up the Constitution to a president who wants to totally tear up the health care plan system in this country? Is there a middle ground?
What challenges does Biden face?
Well, first of all, winning the nomination.
A big one.
Something that's eluded him in both 1987 and 2008. I covered both of those races. The truth is, Biden could finish anywhere from 1st to 4th in Iowa. The fact is, things are so volatile. Right now, Biden's African-American support in South Carolina and the later states is very steady. If Biden does badly in Iowa and New Hampshire, which is not certain, but certainly conceivable, that there might be a significant reevaluation of African-American voters in South Carolina. So, I mean, the fact is that this is a very difficult terrain. There is no one in the Democratic field, in my view, who has even a 2 in 5 chance of being nominated for president. It's that wide open. Biden is probably the most likely person to be nominated. But if you gave me even money on whether Biden would be the nominee, I would put the family fortune on the no side of it.
Wow. Well, you're not a betting man in Vegas today. Many young
no, and by the way, the family fortune is rather small.
Many young people have been critical of Biden, with a number of them posting, "Please don't make me vote Joe Biden" memes to TikTok and Twitter. What are Biden's problems with young voters, and is winning them over essential to him being elected? How does he win them over?
Well, first of all, if you're a Democrat and you remember what Jill Stein did for the 2016 election, the idea that you would contemplate not voting for the Democratic nominee against Donald Trump in 2020, to my mind, is crazy. So the fact is that, number one, I hope there's not a massive persuasion job, because if you don't see a difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in 2020, I really think you might rethink actually voting at all and having the Democratic franchise. But much more importantly, the real question for the Democrats is, one of the reasons Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 is that African-American turnout was down from the Obama years. And the question is, with no candidate of color left in the race, since I don't consider Andrew Yang a serious candidate, who can motivate African-American voters to turn out? And by that, right now, the evidence is Biden, by far, through his association with Barack Obama, has the best chance. So it's really, there's no perfect road for any of these candidates. And, to a large extent, what Biden offers is, I'm Joe Biden, and that I'm somebody who's been around. And if there's a crisis in the Situation Room, I will know how to convene a National Security Council. I will have, I've thought a lot about how to organize the White House staff, and I will be a competent, healing president. And I don't think that's, while Biden may not be my favorite candidate, there are arguments for lots of candidates in this race. It is a fairly compelling argument.
You say Biden has experience on his side. You also write that even some Biden supporters have called his campaign uninspiring. Why is that?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, Joe Biden, his stump speeches ramble. Joe Biden rambles. Joe Biden has always rambled. There was a lot of concern about this is illustrate. Somehow Bernie Sanders is older than Biden, is not considered an old man, but Biden is attacked. Oh, he's clearly losing it, which I think is ridiculous. I went back and looked because I spent a lot of time with Biden in 2007, 2008, the last time he ran. And I looked at some of my articles about the Biden campaign then, and it was the same way. He would go off on these tangents. Sentences would desperately hope to have the subject and the predicate within 400 words of one another, and that this is the way Joe Biden has been for years. So the idea that a Joe Biden speech is somehow a function of age, I think is ridiculous.
Your article was a great read. Walter Shapiro, thank you.
It's a pleasure.